Hey, I just want to take a minute today and give you an introduction to the book of Daniel. Why? Well, because we're covering it on the daily race, studying through the book of Daniel, and just give you a little bit of overview, what to expect, how to read it, what the purpose of, who wrote it, which, surprise, surprise, guy named Daniel wrote it. Yeah, it's not a tricky thing. It's not a trick question there. So let's talk about this a little bit. First of all, book of Daniel is in the Old Testament, so in the Jewish scriptures, the first half of the Bible. It's written as a book. It actually has two genres in it. It's split in half. The first part of Daniel, the first 8 chapters here, actually the first 6 chapters here are historical, meaning that they tell a narrative of Daniel and his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and the fact that they are in captivity in a place called Babylon. Now, why are they in Babylon? They're in Babylon because God's chosen people, the Israelites, have rebelled against him. Not just once, but just continually, over and over and over again. They keep worshiping false gods. They keep turning their back on God and not following his commands. So God warns them through the prophets many, many times, generations upon generations. Kings keep coming and going, and they're not following God. They're not bringing the people back, and God warns them. He's like, please turn back, the prophets are saying. But they don't. So the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, comes in and takes over Israel. And while he destroys the cities, many people are taken back as captives into Babylon. Some of these people are the nobles, the princes, the people of high capacity, the leaders in the country and their children. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are 4 of those people. And they're taken into service in Babylon there. So one of the big things we're going to learn here in the book of Daniel is how do you serve God in a wicked kingdom? How do you serve God and they actually help Nebuchadnezzar, like they're doing a good job for him, in a kingdom that's wicked? That's an interesting question. We're going to look at that. That's one of the themes that goes through this. We see God's sovereignty in raising rulers and taking rulers down. That's an important part. So this first part of the book of Daniel, the first 6 chapters I mentioned, are narrative. They're stories. You're going to hear stories of the fiery furnace, and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego get thrown in there. We're going to hear the story of Daniel and the lion's den. But then the second half of the book is apocalyptic prophecy. It's prophecy. It's visions that God has given Daniel about future events. So some of these events are going to happen shortly after Daniel. Some are going to happen a ways after Daniel. And some of them haven't happened yet. So we're going to look at all of that there as well. So as we're looking at Daniel, it's kind of divided in 2 parts, narrative and prophecy. So in that prophecy part, the way we have to read that is there's imagery there. There's interpretation, there's symbolism. So we're going to take some time to look at that. What is already happened out of the book of Daniel, and what are we still waiting to occur that God spoke and told Daniel to tell people about? So as we look at this, those 2 different literary features, the big theme, if we're going to take like one theme away from this, is God's sovereignty over history. As I mentioned, we're going to hear narratives of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego working hard for a king who doesn't love God, who is opposed to God, who is evil, just straight up evil. Yet they're doing their best. What does it look like to serve in a kingdom like that? How are we supposed to use our gifts and abilities and honor God even in difficult circumstances? Those are all found on there. And we see God's work in and through it all. And that even despite the fact that they're in exile, they're out of the promised land. They've been taken away from God's promised location that he had given Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, that promise. I'm going to give you a land. I'm going to give you a nation. The whole world is going to be blessed through you. God does not leave his promises unfulfilled. So even though they're away from the land, they're eventually going to go back to it. And that even though they've been taken captive, even though the people have been conquered, they still retain their identity, even in captivity. They're still God's chosen people. They're still following his laws. There's a remnant left there so that God can fulfill his promise that through this nation, the whole world will be blessed. What's that blessing? Messiah, Jesus. So, great book of the Bible. Just want to give you a quick overview here. And you know what? If you'd like to know more about the introduction to Daniel, I would encourage you, if you got one tool for your Bible study, I would recommend this: a study Bible. A good study Bible. We did a whole video on study Bibles here on the Daily Race, on thedailyrace.com there in the resources. I would encourage you, check that out. It's a great tool. It gives you introductions. It gives you an outline of the book. A great thing to look through before we jump into this next study, the book of Daniel. Can't wait to walk through it with you. Love you guys.